Well, what's up, everybody? What's going on? Welcome to another Victory Group, our small group ministry. We are excited that you are with us in group today. If you're brand new to group, we welcome you. If you don't know who we is, who are we?
I am Pastor Aisha.
Also known as?
Your victorious
Yes,
secret
that's
model.
important. And who am I?
My boo thing.
Come on, that's don't matter nothing else.
Bishop John
No, forget the
Edmondson.
bishop, just the boo thing. But we're excited as the pastors of this awesome church. We're excited that this is your first group. We're glad that you're with us. And if you're a regular attender, we're glad that you're in group. Thank you for being provision for the vision with small group. And so let's dive in so we can maximize our time. We've been in this teaching on More Than Expected, and it's really good.
Yes.
This is a great teaching. I'm really excited. You know, some series of messages, you know, you think they're going to land a certain way and they don't. But this one has landed in a really good way. It's really, really awesome.
I think it has. It's made you reflect on times where you were obedient to God and doing more than expected in the past, but it's also challenged you on areas where maybe you have fallen back, and areas that you need to actually do more than expected.
That's good.
Because especially, I think, especially during COVID, you know, many times a lot of us have gotten relaxed
and complacent.
Yeah,
true.
And it's really showed us in areas where we really need to start to do a little bit more than expected. In some areas, I question if it is more than expected, and it's just doing what you should expect it to do.
Right. No, that's true.
But it may seem like it's more than expected because we've gotten into this almost complacency, you know, in certain areas of our lives, and to a certain extent, it can be feeling like it's more than expected.
No, that's true. That's true. And so
that was like we were just watching a little bit about how they were saying how a lot of people now are coming back into the workforce, and how some people are going through mental challenges. Challenges just from going
or burnout.
Burnout. Going back to doing what they used to do. And to some degree, it could make a person feel like they're doing more than expected, but actually they're doing what they should be expected to do.
And we said that, you know, doing more than expected is really all about this response to life moments with this diligence and generosity that causes you to go over and above the norm. That I normally will only do this, but doing more than expected pushes me past that. But one of the things we've been really zoning in on is that doing more than expected is rooted in generosity. Because generosity is all about, we said, giving something to another person, another thing that is mine. You can't be generous giving somebody else's stuff to them, but it's mine, and I turn around and I give what's mine, my time, my talent, my treasure, to somebody else or something else. But the key is without obligation or expectation. Then in other words, if you're doing things for people, but you put a condition on them or an expectation or obligation that they need to do something back, that's not generosity. That's conditionalism. But generosity is all about, man, something that's mine, my car, might be clothes, might be my time, whatever, and I bless somebody else, and I don't expect you to do anything in return. You're operating in generosity, and doing more than expected has to be rooted in generosity, because if I do more than expected, but I'm expecting you to do something back to me, that jams me up. But when I go above and beyond, and I don't have this expectation of return, now I'm operating in generosity.
And something we talked about, especially in our staff meeting, and something I brought up, is that sometimes I think we think we're doing something with no expectation in return. But especially when you have a relationship with somebody to some degree, and you do something for them, you're like, oh, I don't expect anything in return. But let that person act stank.
Act what?
Stank. Or get some kind of
What does that mean? What's stank, act stank? What's that mean?
Like, they just act foul. Act foul. They maybe get an attitude with you. They maybe cuss you out, call you everything at a time.
Or don't do what you expect.
But sometimes not doing what you expect may even not even be that much. But then it's like if they just get some kind of attitude, a part of me is like, you really gonna do that to me after what I've done for you?
That's true.
You where your heart really
your motive, where your motive. That's true. It's that self-inspection. I think it's easy to think you're being generous, and you're not. because you have some type of conditionalism
on it. But let something happen like that kind of gets you in the check and checks you a little bit.
Right, and I think that transitions us right now to what we've really been dealing with lately is that if you're really going to do more than expected, if you're really going to be generous, if you're going to give things that are yours away and bless others without expectation or obligation, if you're going to go further than you really plan on going, it has to be built upon this desire to please God. You have to want to please God. That God, pleasing Him has to be the sole affection and objective of what I do. That I want to please God more than please myself. Because when it's a matter, man, of being inconvenienced, when it's a matter of being pushed out your comfort zone, your flesh doesn't want to do that. But when, in spite of how I feel, under that, more importantly, I want to please God. It'll push me past how I feel.
And I think for us, especially us as pastors, we have to operate in this a lot sometimes, because when we're ministering to people, we're ministering to out of obedience to God and not out of expecting anything in return. Because many times people can leave the church. Sometimes they'll leave the church and they
throw rocks and they leave it.
Rocks on the way out.
And talk about you.
And you have got to learn having thick skin and learn not to have an expectation of, okay, I'm going to do this because I have an expectation for you to do A, B, C in return.
That's so true. And so it's a reinforcement of pleasing God. And people look at us and think, oh, they have it easy. We don't. We deal with all types of stuff and all types of people.
A lot along the way.
And many times, the people that hurt you are not the ones that you didn't really know. It's people that you know, people that you did stuff for them.
People
you
that
helped
you least expect.
And it doesn't mean you don't hurt, but it just means that in spite of how I feel, I'm still going to do the right thing. And so this whole thing about pleasing God, it's so important because it's the cornerstone. It's the foundation to you consistently, longevity-wise, being able to be generous and do more than expected, especially when you don't want to, or you don't think the person deserves it, or whatever the case is. And so, I know, we got testimonies of this. And so, let's talk about real quick, because we're running out of time, our testimony on when, God was calling us to pastor, and we were kind of struggling. I didn't want a pastor. I didn't want a pastor, and it was a full-time thing, and I'm struggling with that, and you were struggling. Let's talk about that. You were struggling, I was struggling.
It was interesting because God told me first that we both would be pastoring together before He revealed it to you, and I said to you, I said, babe, I think you need to pray about it. But honestly, I thought it would happen maybe 10 years down the road. Not happen. I think it might have happened 2 or 3 years down the road later. And I think, when God tells you something, you think you got a lot of time to prepare. You're not worried about it. You're not thinking about it. But then when it does it's ready to happen, and it's like almost right there in your face, you're like, it can be very easy to choke and not do what it is that God has called you to do. And I remember saying, babe, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I want this responsibility. It's one thing having to be responsible for my kids every day. And I'm always concerned that I'm doing right by them. And I'm so concerned about this little small circle, let alone getting responsible for a flock of people that, and I don't know how big that's going to be. How am I going to know that I'm doing right by all of them? Honestly, at that time, I thought it may be no more. The biggest it could ever get was maybe 200 people, 200 people. Max, I really think if God showed me the whole big picture, I might not.
Never mind. No way.
But God gives you what you need to know on a need-to-know basis. So that many times you will step out and be obedient, but He tells you exactly what you need to know. And I remember we went to the Bishop T.D. Jakes conference, and whatever he said, he couldn't even finish preaching, but he gave a prophetic word. And I'm not going to go into the whole prophetic word, but we knew that prophetic word was for us to be able to step out. And I still said to you, I don't know if we could do this. And you said something so profound that ministered to me, not only for pastoring, but for everything that I almost do in life. And you said, babe, you don't have to worry about the people. You only have to worry about hearing the voice of God and doing what He tells you to do every day. And whatever He tells you to do day by day is what the people are going to need. And I remember sitting back and I'm like, you know what? I can do that. And if you think about doing that, there's no stress, there's no strain, and there's no struggle because you're being obedient to God. And where God guides, He provides.
Amen.
And so that has been our testimony on how we have been able to do what it is that God has told us to do when He's told us to do it.
Because the focus has been pleasing God. And that's the key.
Not pleasing people or pleasing things or, you know, it's been pleasing God and doing what He says to do when He says to do it.
That's the undergird of this whole thing, that if you're going to do more than expected, if you're going to do it from a heart of generosity, when you don't want to, you got to want to please God. And that's what's allowed us to have gone as long as we've gone in this whole thing. If we weren't focused on pleasing God, we wouldn't be here today.
Amen.
So amen. So this is really good, man. A lot of great stuff. If you missed any of this teaching, go back and check it out. Let's give you some questions.
That's so funny that you said that. I just had somebody in my office a little while ago, and they were like, Pastor, I don't know how you do it. I can't deal with these people. She said, the people in the church are sometimes worse than the people. I don't know how you do it. It's nothing but the grace of God and doing what God tells you to do when He gives.
But God says about us, He looks at us individual time and shakes His sovereign head and says, I don't understand. I don't understand. You're worse than the devil sometimes. So let's give you some questions. Let's give you questions that you're going to answer. So what are our questions? Let's do them.
Has there ever been a time when a casual relationship became a covenant one?
That's good.
And how did that relationship impact your life?
That's good. I had that happen. So these are up on the screen so you can see them. That's a good question. Number two.
Yes, and then number two, share a time when the decision to please God was more important than what people thought regarding, you know, persecution. And what steps did you take to get to that decision?
That's good.
That's important because there's a lot of people out there that maybe have dealt with that or dealing with that, and depending upon what you say, that could be a catalyst to what it is that they need in order to get through.
And you know, going back to that first question, so a covenant relationship, one that becomes very sovereign. It's a sovereign relationship that God has knit us together for purpose.
So there's a number of relationships that Bishop got. I'll be like, I would have gotten rid of that relationship a long time ago.
Well, some of them are assignments. Those are assignments.
Well, you got assignments,
but then
you
covenant,
got
covenant, and you know God brought you together.
I'll be like,
So I just wanted them to have clarity on that first question. And then what's the third one? Let's look at the third.
Think about your current covenant relationships. Identify a time when God was or is calling you to do more than expected. Identify specifically if your generosity involves time, talent, or resources.
Great questions. Great questions. So answer those questions today, man. Have a great time. You can bring that down. Have a great time with that, with answering. Everybody answer. Everybody involved. These are great questions. Now, we're going to show a video, okay, a video that ties into this whole thing with generosity, and then the questions are going to come back up. So don't worry about the questions. They're going to come back up for a minute, and then you can pause the video and go through the questions. This was good. This was really good, man. And so, again, thank you for being involved in a small group. It really adds value to you as well as to the whole church. All right, check out this video, and we'll see you next time in small group.
So, hey, Ron, what just happened right here? This is my... What just happened? Grabbing my shoes was an idiot.
A photo of a teen giving his shoes to a homeless man is touching hearts around the world.
I couldn't just let him walk away like that. You know, like the story made me cry, so I just gave him my shoes to him, just to make him happy.
Ron is 14 and part of an organization called Perp Me, a Louisville, Kentucky ministry organization that's trying to start a movement.
We're going worldwide to change the world, to inspire kids that they have a purpose, to uplift one another, and just to change the world.
Jason Reynolds works with kids like Ron who want to have a positive influence in their community. He says they were out feeding the homeless when Ron came across this man who was in need of a lot more than some new kicks.
We were just talking about his life, and he really had no friends, he didn't have no family. So, you know, it's just a story, you know, like he said, he didn't have nobody, like he didn't have no love.
So Ron gave him some love in the form of a pair of Nikes.
He just gave his shoes to you, man. How does that make you feel, somebody giving their shoes off their feet?
That's what real is. He didn't want to take them at first, but I told him do it for me because that's what God wanted me to do.
It seems Ron touched a lot more people than just this man. The people behind Perp Me say they've received messages from all over the world about how inspiring the act of kindness was. But the teen says he hopes it makes other people want to spread the love. For InsideEdition.com, I'm